I'll start with you, Scott and David. You talked about this being a multi-year process. The book is 6 years old. When did you option it?
We optioned it not long after it was published in 2018, in the spring of 2018. And we started a draft of the script then. Well, we met with Sigrid, and we started the draft of the script then. And like I was saying in the intro, there were so many interruptions that kept delaying it. And I think we really did believe that nobody believed any longer, but we did.
What was it about this book that made you want to turn it into a film?
You know, as I was saying earlier, that it speaks to such essential aspects of friendship, of love, of grief and loss, and I think Scott and I have always felt that, you know, those kinds of experiences sort of leave pieces of each other with each other, and it felt. I mean, Sigrid's writing there was so much humor in it to go along with that, and I mean, we were just smitten right from the get-go, and really, truly has been a labor of love.
I think we were a little afraid of a movie that featured a dog this prominently, but I think we were also really attracted to that as well. Like, there's something about animals. We both are animal lovers, and I think the challenge of that was also really intriguing. So.
When we met Bill Berloni, who helped us find Bing. He said, "Does it have to be a Great Dane?" And we showed him the cover of the book, and we were like, "It has to be this Great Dane." And he said, "Well, I just have to be honest with you. They're kind of lazy and not the smartest breed." And we're like, "It has to be this Great Dane."
He's changed his tune since meeting Bing. He's like taking it all back.
So, can we talk about casting in that case? Like, I'm curious about. Naomi, obviously, this is like a really, really crucial to get the right actor for that role, but also obviously really crucial to get the right Great Dane. So did you work in tandem looking for the right actor and the right dog? How did that work?
We found the dog first. Oh.
Wow. I was easy to find.
We did. We found the dog really, quite early in this long process. And the one problem with the dog is he was too young. He was only 2, and the dog in the script was, at least in the middle of his life.
We think he's aged beautifully into his role. But once we started talking to Naomi about the script, about the story, we were equally smitten because Naomi's her ability to convey the kind of vulnerability that we needed to be, to be able to play the character the way we thought needed to be played, and she loved the story as well as we did, and it was.
And Naomi has just a lovely lightness about her. Like we were confident that she could make the funny parts really funny and the touching parts really sweet, and not get maudlin, and she did a lovely job for us.
Naomi, I'm curious to hear how you responded to the material. Was it the script that you read first or the novel?
I read the script, though I was aware of the novel first. It was brought to me by our producing partner, Liza Chasen, who I'd worked with before, and I knew of the guy's work, and I loved that. To be honest, I'm always looking to work in New York City because I raise my family here, and I don't like to travel. So I'm going to read something right away when I know it's New York based, and yes, right, New York is. So it was a beautiful read. I thought I loved the central theme of grief. That is something, if there's any repetition in my work, which I'm sure there is, that is a theme that comes up over and over again, lives close to me. And then immediately read the book and loved the character, fell deeply in love with the character and Sigrid's writing, and I loved this idea that one was having to face their grief while dealing with this enormous problem, and look at this dog's grief as well. So I just thought that was a wonderful idea and something I hadn't really done before. That's how I fell in love with the material. And I'm a big animal lover. One of our first conversations, if I can tell them the Bill story, was I said I wanted to know their sensibility, their taste. I said, who are you thinking about for Walter? Because though there's only 5 or 6 scenes, his presence is well felt. And so I said, who are you thinking about? And they right away said, well, it'd be great to have Bill Murray. And I was like, right. Is that why you called me? Because this happens a lot. People know that he's impossible to reach. He doesn't have an agent. He changes his phone number and doesn't have email. So I thought, well, are they coming to me because they want me to get him? And
well, what she said was, "You're not expecting me to call Bill, are you?"
Yeah. And they said, no, not at all, not at all. And then a couple more conversations, and then it was like, so where's Bill? Are we?
That is not true. That is not true.
No. But like, how are we gonna solve this problem? And
the truth is that Naomi hung up and immediately reached out
I
to
know,
Bill.
because I couldn't think about doing it with anybody else.
You didn't trust us to close that deal.
Well, nobody can. No, nobody. I literally had to find out where he was. He happened to be in New York. I said, guys, I need a printed copy. He's not going to read it from his computer.
And a bottle of wine.
And a bottle of wine and the book. And that's how the conversation. But you can't rush him. You can't, he just takes his time. And but eventually he fell in love with the material, and luckily we got him.
Sigrid, how involved were you in this whole process?
Well, I wrote the book.
Yeah.
And that was my involvement. I did not I did not have anything to do with the script writing or the directing or the casting or any of that.
Did you go on set? Were you?
Pardon?
Did you go on set?
Oh, I did. That was fun. I did visit the set more than once, and that was exciting. But from the beginning, when I first heard that they were interested in adapting this, and then we met, I never felt that there was any need for me to be involved in any decisions about the filmmaking. I mean, mainly because I don't know anything about filmmaking or script writing or acting, et cetera, and my instinct told me to just if these people have a vision of what they want to do with this story. I knew it would be different. Things would be left out, things would be added, things would be changed, because I knew it was not going to be a transcription of the book. But when I heard early on, and actually throughout, you yourself saying that, it's not, that people read the book and said it's not adaptable, I never thought that. Because I knew that it was going to be, there was a core story about Iris and Apollo. I didn't think that parts of the book that are really full of interiority, that was not some, there's no drama there, so that wasn't going to be there. So, I always thought of it. I wasn't really surprised at all when I saw it, because it is the way I thought it would come out. I saw exactly the reasons for all the choices. So yeah.
And the delay is, we live near each other in New York, and we were able to get to know each other, have dinners, and Sigrid was a great sounding board just to talk about what we were doing and talk about the book a little bit. So that was nice.
And speaking of Bill Murray, one of the early things that happened that made me very excited was that I was told that he read the book and the script, and he said, this could be a lot funnier. And I thought, You go, Bill. That sounds great.
At Telluride, he was still critiquing one of the jokes. He said we got it wrong. Yeah.
You could say a little bit more about adaptation, David and Scott, because some of your other films are also adapted, and I'm just wondering if obviously every film is different, and they're quite different books that you've worked with. But I'm just curious if there is a general approach to what do you think makes for an adaptable text and
I mean, like so many other screenwriters have said, you sort of need to leave the book behind to some degree. Like you're not transcribing the book into a film story. You're trying to make something that evokes and tells the story of the book, but filmically. So, as Sigrid said earlier, there's a lot of interiority in the book, and that's where the idea for the voiceover came from, was to try and capture some of that interior mind for Iris. So with this adaptation, that was a real driving kind of structural idea, which we had never done before. We had never used a voiceover in a movie. Oh, actually, in one movie, just a tiny little bit. So it was interesting with this because I talked about all the delays. We started adapting the book in 2018, and another project came up that took basically 10 months, and when we put the script down, and it took about 10 months to not happen. And when we picked the adaptation back up after those 10 months, we had a very different idea of what to do with it. And that was interesting for us. That had never happened before.
One of the things that changed over that period is we decided we needed the character of Val, that we had thought that there wasn't a daughter in Sigrid's book, and then because it had been a while since we'd read it, we went back and read it and realized, oh, there actually was a daughter in Sigrid's book that we.
But she's mentioned. She doesn't have a big part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned this in your introduction, and Naomi, you just brought it up as well, that this is a New York movie, not just a film that's set in New York, but actually shot in New York. And we see many movies in which other cities stand in for New York often. Can you talk about why, the challenges of making a New York movie and why it was important to you to actually shoot in New York?
No, well, like Naomi said, we all we live here, and this is our place, and we feel like we understand the city in ways that people who don't live here do, and it is a complicated place to shoot. It is a little bit more expensive than other places, but the quality of the crew who work here is fantastic, and I mean, I think we have some people from the cast and crew here today. But we wanted, it's very, very much a character in Sigrid's book, and we really wanted it to be a character in the movie. We wanted to try and create a kind of picture of New York that was extremely familiar and yet not something you'd quite seen before. So, we were very energized by the idea of shooting here.
It was. I just want to add to that, but there were challenges that came with that. It felt vital to make it feel really authentically true to New York. But we were on and off the subway, guys, and with no real proper
permission.
We were stealing images and.
No.
Are we in trouble? Are we in trouble? Sorry. We had people looking after us, but we had to jump on and off the trains. We were a teensy crew, and it was intense. And then even walking through the park, and the first week of filming was almost quite terrifying for me because though I felt very acclimated with the dog, because I did a month's worth of training with Bill and his owner, Bev, and very much got to know there was a trust. But once you're out in the streets, you've got traffic, you've got people coming up, you've got bikers, you've got all kinds of
other dogs
that want to come up and sniff his butt, and everybody. This is like walking down the street with Mick Jagger Jagger or John Bon Jovi or something. You know, like everybody
on a
wants
leash.
piece of him. Yeah, and he kind of wants to, you know, like tell you what's what if you know you come up and get in his space. You know, he's very docile, but you know he's still got he's intact, as they say. So that was alarming to me, you know, and I had to cross the road and things, and you know, it all was timed out with steady cams and things like that. So there was some moments.
And Bing is not a New Yorker. So
He's a country dude.
He's a country dude, yeah.
Can you tell us more about Bing?
I can tell you that he is one of the most wonderful screen partners ever. I fell in love with this dog over and over again, and look at his eyes. I mean, you've seen him on a close-up in a 60-foot screen there. He's every bit that it looks like. It's the camera is not lying, and his soul is deep. So it was a true pleasure to work with him, despite the, you know, cliche of, you know, be careful of working with animals and children. He delivered over and over again. I was turning the pages at the beginning of the reading it, going, this is not possible. No way, no way. But he delivered what was on the page and then some. You know, we kept asking more and more of him, and he did it.
He must have overheard somebody say that he was lazy. He said, watch this, watch this.
Curious to hear from your perspective what it was like to direct Bing. I mean, you said this was one thing that drew you to the project, the challenge of having you know, a dog in such a central role.
So when we started working with the trainer, his name is Bill Berloni, the head animal trainer, he had told us his plan was to find the right dog, and then the owner would not be allowed on set, that he would form a bond with the dog, and that relationship would be what would control the dog's behavior.
That the only people that could really deal with the dog were Naomi and him, basically.
So the dog had to have two, you know, clear focuses on set. And then Bill got to know Bing's owner, Bev Klingensmith, and he changed his plan completely. And Bev's relationship with Bing is so special and unique, and she is such a natural, gifted trainer, that Bill had the wisdom to kind of change his plan, step aside, bring Bev into the process, and that made everything work. I mean, all we had to do is figure out what Bing wanted from Bev, and we knew where to put the camera.
I'm getting the sign that we have to wrap up, but I'm also getting the sign that we have a special guest who might be coming out on stage.
Go.
This is Bing and Bev.
Thank you, Bing, and thank you all of
Thank you all very much.
for being here
Thank
with
you.
us today.